Hey, Dalan Amalaf, 84A. Oh, this is more. Okay. Top of the first last narrow line. Okay. So yesterday the discussion revolved around the question of what is the source that if one damages his friend, instead of actually damaging him like he did to his friend, we make him pay financially. So for example, if somebody gouges his friend's eye, we can gouge his eye. But instead we make him pay. So the Gemara gave a few sources yesterday, and today we'll continue with quite a few attempts, most of which the Gemara really throws out. So the last of the narrow lines on 84a, Tanya Idach, Reb Shimon ben Yochai says, Ayin tachas ayin, an eye for an eye, mammon. It means financially. At I'm mammon, you're telling me it's financially. Maybe if he gouges somebody's eye, we should gouge his eye. So the Gemara says that can't be. Why not? Let's say somebody's blind, visimo, and he blinds somebody else. Or kita, he's an amputee, the kita, and he amputates somebody else. Chigar, he's a limp, v'chigar, and he trips somebody else, and that guy becomes a limp too. So how would it be possible to fulfill the obligation of an eye for an eye? Right? If the guy's blind already, can't blind him again. The Torah says, the laws of punishment should be equal to everybody. So therefore, it must be that the only possible way to have punishment equal is to make it financial. So my question is that such a difficult question? Where it's possible, it's possible. Where it's not possible, then upatrin. In other words, maybe indeed, when a guy has eyes and he blinds somebody else, we gouge his eyes. We blind him. And if the guy is himself blind when he blinds somebody else, then indeed he'd be exempt from penalty. There's a weird so it's, in other words, it's always the same penalty. The penalty is exactly what you did. And if you can't give the penalty, then you'd be exempt. If you're not going to say this, you have a treifa, somebody who's terminally ill, that kills a healthy person. What do you do to him? One second. Okay. Now, what do you do to him? This is an interesting point here. This is the problem of Eidus Shet Yochel Azima. We spoke about Eidus Shet Yochel Azima in the past. What is that? In short, there's a major problem here. So you have Ruvain, the terminally ill Ruvain tried to kill Shimon, or killed Shimon. So the witnesses testified that terminally ill Ruvain should be killed. Okay. Now, the problem is that Ruvain is terminally ill. Killing a terminally ill person is not that beneficial. I just had an unpleasant encounter with someone who was terminally ill but fully functioning, and he seemed to be the type of guy to act with malice because he knows he's terminally ill. She's not the type of guy you want to hang around.
No. Don't give him a gun.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I will say it was not a pleasant interaction. I have to deal with that. Anyway, but okay, so now the witnesses testify that this terminally ill Ruvain should be killed. The problem is the witnesses here are Eidus Shet Yochel Azima. Why? Let's say those witnesses are liars. You can't kill them. Why not? Typically, the penalty for lying on a witness is you do to you what you want to do to the other guy. Mm-hmm. But over here, they can argue they wanted to kill a terminally ill person, and which is to say that they were just moving his death penalty a couple of days because he was dying anyway. So it's unfair to kill them, healthy people that are not terminally ill, when they wanted to kill a person who effectively was going to die anyway. So what happens to terminally ill Reuven who kills the murderer? Nothing. He goes free. So indeed, it is possible. And by the way, the Torah says with regard to murderers, mishpat echad yelachem. All murderers have the same law; they're killed. Even though there's a technical difficulty that terminally ill Reuven who kills is is exempt effectively. Effectively, he walks away from his crime. Because you cannot give terminally ill Ruvain the death penalty, so therefore he's exempt, and that satisfies the obligation of a single law. Okay, so that proof is not too good either. Next attempt, the Rabbi Shmuel Tana. The Rabbi Shmuel taught, Amar Kra, the verse states, Kain Yinosin Bay. Okay, the verse states, as they 1 second. Like a man gives a wound to his friend, they give to him. So what does the word nosan mean? To give? The ain't a sina elamomen. It means financially. There's just one problem, because if you read the full context of the verse, what does it say? Elameata kashar yitein mum ba'adam. Like a man wounds his friend, gives him a wound. Now, does that mean he gave him financial wound? Clearly not. Clearly he gave him a physical wound. He assaulted him. So obviously it's not financial. Obviously it must be physical. Rabbi Shmuel explains it's not exactly what Rabbi Shmuel meant to say. What he meant to say was as follows. Kro Yisera Darshi. There's an extra verse here. The verse has extra words. Ksiv ishkit in mumbamisei kasher also kenya yosalei. If a man gives his friend a wound, we do to him. But it doesn't say yeyasa. It doesn't say to do. It says ken yinosin. We give. Why are we repeating that terminology? We could have said yeyasa. We should do to him. In other words, like he broke his friend's arm, we're going to break his arm. Ken yinosin by lamali. Why did it say we will give to him a broken arm? Shmamina moment. It must be financial. So if that's the case, then what about the first part of the verse? Kasher yitin mumba adam. Why does it say kasher yasa mumba adam? Meaning, when it talks about the assaulter, right? Reuven assaults Shimon. We say Reuven gives Shimon a broken arm. Yitin. Why don't we say Reuven did Shimon a broken arm? Ye'asa. Right? If we're saying that the connotation of yinosen, yitain, nosan, giving means financially, so then why do we choose the same terminology of yitain when we talk about assault? The more appropriate word here would be yasa. He did to him whatever. He did to him an assault, a broken arm. Together? One second. Okay, so Gemara says, I did the boy mechtiv ken yinasim boy. Sivnami kachayitin mum ba'adam. Since the end of the verse concludes with yinasin, giving, meaning giving financially. Therefore, the first part of the verse uses the same words. Okay. The Be'er of Chizkiya taught. Amar Kra, the verse states, Yod biyod, Dover hanitin miyad liyad. A hand to a hand. What does that mean? Okay, 1 second. Okay, the verse states you should not have, if somebody commits assault, you shouldn't have compassion. You should make sure he gives a soul for a soul, meaning if he murders, you kill him. A tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot. What does a hand for a hand mean? In other words, that's sort of an extra example. There's no reason to give that example. What it means is davar nitin miyad liyad. A hand for hand indicates to me that this type of retribution is financial. That which is passed from hand to hand, meaning money. Umaydi umomen. El me'ad, if that's the case, there are other examples that are superfluous. For example, regel b'regel, foot for a foot. Again, the verse gives 4 examples. A soul for a soul, that refers to murder. Okay, and 3 more that refer to assault. A tooth, a hand, and a foot. Now, okay, fine. You need to tell me one that you have to pay what you damaged. So that's tooth for a tooth. Good. A hand for a hand, what does that tell me? You pay for it's actually financial payment. So what is a foot for a foot? Why is that necessary to be written? 1 second. Okay. Rabbi Dovid Yehudah says It's an extra verse. With false witnesses, you do to them what they want to do to their friend. One second. If it means literally, meaning if they testify that Reuven broke Shimon's arm, then and they want Reuven's arm to be broken, so then we should break their arm. If that's the case, yod b'yod lamali. In other words, doing to them what they plan on doing to their friend, it would be sufficient if the Torah did not specify examples. I would know that if they testify their friend that Reuven broke Shimon's arm, then we would break Reuven's arm, which means we would break the witness's arm if they turn out to be liars. Why does Torah specify yod b'yod? So Shema it's to tell you that you make a financial payment. So Gemara says, okay, it's still a regal b'regal amali. Why does it need to say a foot for a foot? So Gemara says, I dirsiv yod b'yod, ksiv nami regal b'regal. Since it says a hand for hand, it also says a foot for a foot. Abaya offers another possibility. Miditani de Bechizkiah from the Bryce of Chizkiah. The Tana de Bechizkiah, they taught in the name of Chizkiah. Ayin tachas ayin, nefesh tachas nefesh. An eye for an eye, a soul for a soul. And what do we learn from there? V'loy nefesh v'ayin tachas ayin. And not a soul and an eye for an eye. Let's explain. If let's say Reuven gouges Shimon's eyes, right? Reuven commits assault, takes out Shimon's eyes, and what do we do to Reuven? We take out Reuven's eyes. So Zimin de Meshkachas, like it could easily happen that ayin v'nefesh tachas ayin. It could be an eye and a soul in place of an eye. In other words, Reuven, in place of taking out Shimon's eyes, Reuven's going to get killed. Why? The Bahadi, the overlay, while we're blinding Reuven, nafklei nishmasei. Reuven's soul will leave him. In other words, we'll accidentally kill Reuven. And that will turn out to be a significantly harsher penalty than he was supposed to get. So as you think to yourself, oh my gosh, is this really such a difficult problem? Dilma, maybe Amdina lay. You take the assaulter, Reuven, and you evaluate him. Imatzi mekabel avdinan. If it's known that Reuven's a healthy person, then we're able to blind him. The loimatzi mekabel, if Reuven's known to be blind, Reuven's known to be frail and ill, and there's concern that if by blinding him we may easily take his life, so then we won't do it. And moreover, let's say we say Reuven's healthy, he's able to lose his eyes for taking out Shimon's eyes. And we actually take out Reuven's eyes. And Reuven ends up dying by accident. Let's say he dies, so he dies. It's a tragedy, but what can we do? As a similarity, as a corollary of this, we have a similar law. Milatnan, don't we learn? Gabe Malchus, with regard to the laws of lashes. If let's say somebody commits a sin that incurs the penalty of lashes, what we do is we evaluate them. We see how many lashes could they take. If they're healthy, they get all 39. If they're not healthy, they might get 1, maybe 2, maybe none. And now, what happens if we say this guy is strong as an ox? He can take 30 lashes. Or 40, whatever, full 39. 39 lashes. And what happens? Guy dies. He was not so strong. What's the halacha? They evaluated him. Umeis tachas yadai, and he ended up dying. Potter, the guy who's administering the lashes, is exempt. So similarly, if we think that we can gouge out the assaulter's eyes without him dying, and he ends up dying, it's too bad. Okay, so that didn't go over well. Abaya's source. Rizvid Mishmedi Rabba Amar. Rizvid said the name of Rabba. Amar Kra, the verse states, Petza tachas petza. Oh, petza is like a, how do you say petza is a wound? They give a better, more specific translation than petza? Or they just say wound?
Burn for a burn, a wound for a wound, a bruise for a bruise.
Yeah, okay, we'll get to that. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Petza tachas petza is a wound for a wound. But we'll discuss this at greater length toward the end of the page. different types of wounds and burns, etc. Lita in Sarah Makom Nezik. What does Petz tell me? That in addition to paying for the damages, you also pay for the tsar, for the pain. We will discuss evaluating pain either later today, probably tomorrow at this point. The Isai Daidach Mamish. 1 second. Hold on. Okay. The Isai Daidach Mamish. So now we run into serious problems here. Okay. In other words, so Reuven is the assaulter, right? Reuven assaulted Shimon. Sorry for picking on Reuven. I don't think anyone's name here is Reuven, so it's pretty good. Yeah, it's a sort of a Talmudical standard to always pick on Reuven. Reuven's always the first one in any story, for good or for worse. Okay, now, so Reuven assaults Shimon, right? Let's say he trips Shimon, making a joke, and he trips Shimon. Shimon is a permanent limp now. Okay, so now not only does he have to pay for the decrease in value of a slave, we'll talk about this also in more detail, between a person who is able to limp and a person who doesn't walk with a limp, but he also caused him pain. We have to evaluate the pain. We'll talk about how to do that tomorrow. However, there's another problem. If you say that because he made Shimon into a limp, we make Reuven into a limp, how can you pay for the pain if by making Reuven into a limp, we cause him pain? Right? So how could that be a payment? So the Gemara says that's like that. Wow, like that's the greatest question. Not so difficult. Well, my kasha, I have a simple resolution. There's a big difference between the pain that Shimon suffered when he was tripped in the most brutal, embarrassing fashion, and the pain that Reuven suffered in the doctor's office under anesthetic, giving him a limp. And when that obviously it's not always going to be the case. Sometimes Reuven is going to trip Shimon in private, and the pain will be an instant. Mm-hmm. But where there is a difference, then nafkamina l'meitzavlei echta beini beini. You give the difference in pain between the two people. The Gemara also gives an example where the victim, Shimon, is very sensitive, maybe to pain, maybe sensitive to being thrown on the floor more than other people are. Shimon, Reuven's is a what do you call it? He's a fighter. He's a martial arts guy, right? So he's used to throwing on the floor. The fact you throw him on the floor doesn't cause him any pain. And where that difference would exist, then you'd pay that difference. Where it doesn't exist, they're both the same. Then you're right, you wouldn't pay it. So it's not the fact that Torah makes you pay pain does not necessarily indicate that the payment that the assault makes that Reuven makes to Shimon for assault is financial, as opposed to actually doing to him what he wanted to do to his friend. On a very similar note, Rav Papa says in Mishmei Rav in the name of Rav Amakra, the verse states, "V'rapa yirapa," you have to heal him. Litin refu and makam nezik. Not only do you pay for damages, but you also have to heal him. If you say that Reuven breaks Shimon's arm, you break Reuven's arm. He hated the high boy Asya, high nami boy Asya. So guess what? Shimon needs a doctor, and Reuven needs a doctor too now. They both got to go to the emergency room for what do they call it? I can't remember the word to correct the arm.
Set.
Yeah, settings to set the arm. So the Gemara, 1 second. So the Gemara says, "My kasha." What's the question? Dilma ikad desolak b'tzrei high. The ikad desolak b'tzrei high. L'maynaf kamina l'meisav le'ha'ech b'nei b'nei. Maybe there are people that heal differently. It could be that Reuven's skin is a lot less sensitive than Shimon's skin. So when you broke Shimon's arm, actually his skin got ruined and his muscles got ruined, and he has to go to physical therapy. And Reuven was in good shape. I don't know if that makes a difference. That's a significant fact. I have no clue of any of this stuff in practical terms, but whatever. Right. Let's say that Reuven was in very good shape, and because of that, when the court broke Reuven's arm, Reuven did not need to go to physical therapy. So then that would be a difference, and that's how you would pay that's where you'd pay financially for the doctor bills. So the fact that there's doctor bills does not indicate that the payment Reuven makes to Shimon is financial, as opposed to doing to Reuven what he did to Shimon. Okay, next attempt. Rav Ashi says, I told you there's a lot of attempts, and so far most of them most of them the Gemara is resolved that are sort of they're iffy.
Right.
They're good. Some of them are not responded to at all. The questions remain. The sources are poor, and others the Gemara's sources said they're okay sources. None of them so far were great today. Yesterday they were much better sources. Rashi says, "Asya tachas tachas mishar." You learn from an ox. It says an eye for an eye. You pay an ox for an ox. Malahal and mammon, just like over here, it's financial. Afkan mammon, over here also it is financial. What does it mean it's financial? Meaning, if my ox kills your ox, then I evaluate the value of your ox and I pay accordingly, which might mean my ox, it might mean part of my ox, it might mean more than my ox. If it were an ox for an ox, that means that when my ox kills your ox, we would kill my ox. That's not what happens. We don't kill my ox. We pay my ox, and we pay it according to the value of your ox. Not viewing your ox as an ox, but viewing as an ox worth, I don't know, $1,000 or $1,200 or $600.
It's an oxidation process.
Malahal and Mammon, Afkan Mammon. Okay. So the Gemara asks, my chazas the Yalfis, tachas mishor, and they'll tachas me'adam. Okay, well, why are we comparing an assault, which is man to man? The key word for assault, by the way, very important for the rest of the parak, is called chayvel. Nizakin is damages. It's all different types of nizakin. There's a unique type of nizakin that's person to person. In English, I think they call this assault. It's called chayvel. Chayvel specifically is man to man. So why are we comparing chayvel to nizikin of shar to shar, an ox to an ox? Why don't we compare chayvel to capital punishment, to murder? It also says tachas. A soul for a soul. The guy murders, we kill him. So the Gemara says, no, we prefer to compare damages to damages. Chayvel is a type of nezikin, than comparing nezikin to misa, to murder. So Gemara says, compare man to man that murders, man that's chayvel, then rather than comparing man to an ox, a man that damages versus an ox that damages. Rashi says, no, we have a better idea. Tachas asherina is rape. So what do we have here? Yalav adam me'adam u'nizakim and over there, rape is a financial penalty. In addition to, there's a fixed penalty called knas, plus there's actual damages. And just like over there, we have adam me'adam, man for man, and a zikin for zikin, it's both man and damages. So therefore, we learn from there that the payment is financial and not physical. Have a great day. Okay, sorry again for the delay. We'll be on time.
Maybe we picked a ribbon because he moved Yaakov's bed.
Sorry.
I mean, he couldn't move Yaakov.